Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Hey, well, thank you, Sean, and once again, we're back with my best friend now for 2 years straight, Jon Russell from Warlord Games. How you doing today, John?
Hey, Happy New Year, Mitch. It's fantastic. It's 2 years, man. That's just, it has flown by, and I enjoy this. I look forward to these every time we do these.
That just means we're getting closer to death, my friend.
That's right, baby. That's right. And I was talking to some guy from Warlords Illustrated. They want us to do some articles on Korea, which we'll get into later. And he was talking about, I love talking to you guys because I love listening to your podcasts. I love listening to you so much, John, because unlike us British guys, you Yanks, you talk about everything. You talk about releases. You talk about what's going on. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. So he was all excited about that. And it was really fun and refreshing to hear that he loves listening to our podcast. So good on you, Mitch. Way to go. Great stuff. And
I've written for those guys. And if they're listening to this one, Wayne, if you're still out there, from Wayne Bollins from
that's the guy I was talking to. I
have a wrath of writers that really want to write for you guys, and the website. And we just hit a year.
Yep.
Yeah, without anybody killing each other, so it's a lot of fun. So I'll tell you what. So we're here once again. As much as I love talking to you, and this is your fourth time on, we're here for the spoilers because as interesting as you and I are individually, let alone together, people really want to hear about the spoilers. So
of course I do.
I'm gonna shoot out topics here, and we could also talk about some games. So your most recent release in the history genre was Cruel Seas.
Yes, sold out in about 2 weeks. It'll be back on the shelves hopefully middle of this month. Soon to be followed by the Russian and Italian fleets.
And you're welcome for that because I bought 2 boxes. I got the Japanese, I got the Americans, I got the starter box, and the models are beautiful. I did
the release weekend, that 8th of December when it came out. I was in Mythico Studios up in New Jersey. Fantastic place, great guys, Nelson and Joe and all those guys. Hi, how you doing? He bought 2 trade bundles. And at the end of that weekend, there was maybe 5 or 6 boxes left out of about 25, 30. So we were just killing it. And we showed people how to use it with Blood Roots guys and how to use it with bolt action. But people were just loving the dynamics. They were loving. There was some itchy points a little bit. So as I walked people through it, they go, oh, okay, got it. And it was great. People just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's, and we do the good with the bad here.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people were like, well, the errata came out right away, and, folks.
It's 10 pages of errata, oh my God. But did you look at the errata?
Yeah.
It's not really 10 pages, it's maybe 2, but I've never seen a more detailed and meticulous errata in my life. It had the exact paragraph with the new changes, so if you wanted to, you could cut it out and put it in. I mean, some guys were like, oh, you should give us a new rule book. Really? Come on now.
Now, for the demo I ran, and we had 4 people show up, I did that. I did I snipped and I put all that new stuff in there.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is I was playing with them, and then I let them just take it on their own. The rules are intuitive. Say what you want. The game's a lot of fun. Somebody wrote online, like, they created a game for a segment that there was no demand. And I'm like, Really? Like, there's
an awful big demand because it's sold out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm a longtime naval war gamer, 2400, 1600.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this since you first spilled it with us. I got a lot of people to buy it. I like it. I think it's a good game. I'm gonna go with that genre of easy to play, and I hate to use the word beer and pretzels. Just like Blood Red Skies, that it's you don't need a lot of models.
Yep.
You don't.
What's that old line?
Huh?
Me and you are the age of that game. Remember that old game come out with Othello?
Yeah.
Easy to learn, lifetime to master.
Yeah.
These are those games. They're easy to learn. They're quick, fast, and simple. They're the like you said, almost a beer and pretzel. Maybe for this we'd say brandy and salt pork. I don't know because it's a Navy thing.
It is.
But
it is rum.
Yeah, rum. But it's so fast. It's fun. Will be other boats? Sure, there'll be other boats. Will be some? And we were even catching flack from some people online about. We started finding some people wanted the destroyers. We hadn't built them yet, but people want them. So we found some model companies in 1/350, which is damn close.
Yeah.
There is a model out there for the Fletcher and Revel 1/306 scale, which I picked up, and they're huge. They're almost a 2-foot long thing. They're going to be massive. But I mean, if you want a destroyer, you can get them. But we were catching flack because we were selling somebody else's product to help them get their destroyers on the board.
Yeah. Well,
sometimes you just can't win for it.
You can't win. It's. I would love to play some of those Japanese long lance torpedo boats.
Oh God, yes, and
against...
the slots, and when the Maldives and the Pow supplement comes out later. Oh, wait a minute, we'll talk about that.
Oh yeah.
You can tie that right in, running down the slot with the PT boats and the destroyers fighting each other, and Jon really put some time into this. 3-4 years of blood, sweat, and tears trying to get this right. A lot of times taking money out of his own pocket to make sure the models get done, just because he had so much passion and fervor on this game itself. And what's funny too is, Mitch, is a lot of these naysayers, you start asking them questions about what do you mean? What's wrong? How about this? You come to find out they either didn't A, have the game, or B, haven't read all the rules yet.
Well, they're gamers. And,
yeah, they're gamers.
And that's kind of what they love. The only big thing I would say is those slider things on the cards.
Yep.
We got to get something plastic there.
Plastics or Litco's got a counter out there. Some people are using counters for doing knitting. I use paper clips. You can go down to your local Home Depot and use red paper clips. They're fine.
Yeah.
It's a system that was better than what we had before. Does it need improvement? Okay, probably. But I've even seen some guys. I think Historique now is doing something with counters. There's all different people out there doing hull counters. Some guys are designing card holders in wood that you lay your card in, and then you can slide things back. It's just almost like a cribbage board kind of looking thing. It's just like, holy mackerel, people are going nuts. When people are A, making card holders for the game, or B, rigging the ships with aerials that were scratching an itch, I think, that people have had for a long time.
Yeah, well, the guy from Historique, I use his stuff for bolt action. I think that's great stuff. Look, people are going to complain. I think the game's solid. I think folks should give it a try. And you don't need very much. Like, you could pick up the PT boats and, pick up the German E-boat collection, and those could play against each other. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the flotillas, you're set to go. $30 for 6 ships. Come on.
All right, so we got the Russians and we got the Italians coming out in the 22nd.
Right.
We got the re-release, I guess, of all the stuff that's come out.
Americans, Japanese, Americans, Japanese, British, and Germans.
What's in the future for the game? You said something about the Maldives.
Well, it's towards the end of the year. We're looking at trying to release a supplement for the Palau and the Marianas. So we'll do a lot more in depth on the South Pacific and the island hopping stuff. So there'll be things fitting right in there with Cruel Seas and with Blood Red Skies and with bolt action. So it's going to be a bolt action supplement, but there'll be a lot of. Let me check my magic schedule here.
The magic schedule.
Let me see here. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let's see. Yeah, Palau, Marianas and Palau. Yep, yeah, an island campaign book towards the end of the year.
Not bad.
Yeah. So again, this is going to fit perfect for those Americans and Japanese players out there. I mean, and we're having a good time with some videos and stuff. That the Japanese just won't know what going to hit them. So I mean, we're having fun with that, and the people are laughing about that, and it's cool. It's just it spins up that. People are getting excited about it. They're having fun with it. We're breaking out of the boxes. So if you want just that Japanese Minesweeper, you're going to be able to buy it separately here pretty soon. So you don't have to buy it in the fleet. So a lot of the big, and the tankers, lighthouses, all kinds of stuff. People are starting to build islands with coastal defenses on them already. It's just crazy stuff. So there's even one guy on Facebook that put out some rules for a submarine that's surfaced that takes 3 or 4 turns to submerge, so you can take it while it's trying to go underwater. So
that's not bad. So this is going to stay a World War II game, and maybe you're old enough to remember, but there was this company that had these games, and it looked like an album, and you opened it up, and it was a hexagon, and there was a game they had called Fast Attack Boats, and it was OSA patrol boats against Israeli PT boats.
Yep.
We're going to see that, or maybe.
Well, later on this year when Korea comes out, guys are in the studio, Andy's in the studio, and you saw a teaser, I think just 2 weeks ago. They released a teaser of a Sabre, an F-86. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I was going to get to that when we go Blood Red Skies next.
Yeah, well, that's coming out later on around Korea release. And there's also boats, and there'll be some scenarios for Cruel Seas because the North Koreans and the Chinese used Russian drone catters and stuff like that. So there was some, and we even found in our research for Steve Smith in our research, who you met at Nova.
Love Steve Smith.
Research, yeah. He found some research that the North Koreans had trained and loaded up a bunch of North Korean commandos on this ship, early part of the Korean War, early 50s, and they were going to go do a end around and attack Punsan and destroy the harbor. And
they still do that, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, and if they would have been successful, they were caught in the open seas and sunk. They would have wrecked all the harbors, so the Punsan perimeter never would have happened.
Yeah. And
so there's a scenario for for Cruel Seas.
So
will there be other things? Yeah. Yes. Possibly. A lot of people, when they hear about Korea, they say, "What do you do Vietnam?" I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I got from one of our readers.
Yeah. And it's like, what are you going to do Vietnam? Well, you've got to, I'm trying to remember the quote from my good friend Steve Morris over in the UK. You got to learn to walk before you leap. Look, right after World War II, we had Korea.
Right.
Then there's some Rhodesia actions. There's there's some actions in, the Yom Kippur. There's some stuff in Africa. There's some stuff, so a lot of stuff in Europe. There's the Dominican Republic revolt. There's the Pakistan-Indian War. And why should we go from Korea 1950 to 1965, 15 years later, skip all that stuff in between, and have to develop all that stuff in between if we incrementally do walks before you leaps? And build that stuff up.
I'm reading a book now. It's any book about the Bien Phu I'm going to read. It's a book that just came out a few months ago, and I'm thinking like, man, that'd also be a good game. But you guys, I'm not complaining. I like the fact that you guys are expanding it. And Cruel Seas, folks, give it a try. So let's go Blood Red Skies. The skies are getting more crowded with Focke-Wulf 190s and
110s.
110s. I actually pre-ordered through a local store the 3 new Aces.
Excellent. Good. I always support your FLGSs.
Yeah, I'm always
after
those.
That. Yeah, we're looking at. Let me see. We got 190s and 110s, and then there's talk of probably the Bullfighter finally. Some more. This is based. When the sun goes down, it's still a British company, so they love their Spitfires and Hurricanes. So there'll be some more stuff for Spitfires probably.
Okay.
And there's talk. I don't know if it'll come to fruition, but there's talk of doing data cards and there's beta cards out there now on the Blood Red Skies Facebook site of aircraft that aren't out yet, but some other companies maybe do that. So we might be releasing a British card set, a German card set, a Japanese card set, USAAF card set. So there's some things going on, and we love our British comics. We love our Rebellion and our Warlord comics. And in one of the comics, there was a particular gentleman that flew Hurricanes but then was drummed out of the RAF and decided to he ended up getting into a ship and being on a ship for becoming a seaman, but then they got attacked by some Germans, and on board there was a Hawker Hurricane, and he jumped in it and flew off and went to play with the Russians.
Really?
So it's Johnny Red. So there's a lot of comic strips out there, a lot of graphic novels on Johnny Red, and we've been thinking about maybe doing the Falcon Squadron, which is a bunch of Hurricanes and Radas and Yaks and stuff led by Johnny Red, who's a British guy who flies a Hurricane in the Russian Air Force. So
well, and I like the idea of the cards, because my thing is I'm not going to get all the aircraft. I'm going to get the ones I like. I'm not going to get the Russian aircraft. My thing is, well, the cards, when you build the deck, some of those cards I'm not going to be able to get. So it would be great if you guys had those for sale.
Oh, you mean just the movement cards? Specialty cards, like the Ace cards and the Doctrine cards and aircraft cards. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. And that's what's going on.
And that would be kind of cool, because I'm mostly going to stay with the British and the Germans, and I'm sure that you guys are going to. And for folks out there like, man, I don't want to get another 12 aircraft. I noticed I got the 2 Hurricane Aces, and that's all the cards for the Hurricanes.
Yep,
so all you got to do is really buy the Aces, because that's where the cards are. And then I'm going to give a shout out to the guy at Miscellaneous Miniatures. He's local, and you came out with the We Told Urbanowitz. So I went and bought his squadron. He does amazing 1/200 decals, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff. I saw some of them. They're great.
Yeah, he does some really good stuff. So I picked up Pick Picard. I picked up the 2 Hurricane Aces. I picked up the JU-88s. So I'm excited to get my Germans to get a little bit more augmentation here coming up in January.
And we rotate, like I said, Bullfighters might be here soon, some more Spitfires, and then we'll rotate back to the Germans with, there's one plane that people have been screaming and yelling for.
Which is?
For a long the iconic aircraft of the Germans besides Ju-8s in the Battle of Britain.
Stuka.
Yes. So that might be out, in the near future, along with the 410s.
Oh.
Then we'll switch over to another ally. So we might do, we're looking at maybe, of course, some Mustangs and that Gullwing aircraft of fame. Corsair. Of course, we're looking at some Aces for that one. So who the first guy that everybody yells for if we do Corsairs.
Pappy Boynton, and it should come with it should come with a bottle of whiskey too.
Exactly. Have some bourbon in there for you, ready to roll.
And you can actually have Pappy Boynton twice, because if you're going to do P40s.
Yeah. They'll come out later on in the year, yes.
So you can have some Flying Tigers like Bob Scott and
Tex Hill.
Tex Hill.
Yep.
Is he the one that wrote God is My Co-Pilot?
No, that was. I
think it was Scott.
It could have been Scott. Yep. Tex Hill wrote. Has got another one. Then of course we'll do after those Americans. The Corsairs and stuff. We're gonna go over to the Axis, and we'll do some Japanese stuff. Maybe some Mitsubishi J2s and some Shindins. These are all just tentative. That some things. If it happens, it happens. Then, of course, going to go back to the Allies. We'll go Sturmgewicks and Yaks. And then, of course, everybody wants P-40s and P-47s with Gabreski.
So, with you guys are going to come out with later models of the Spitfire. Will that be a new model?
Yeah. It'll be a little different looking.
Well, yeah, because it did look a little different. But the models are great. I'm enjoying the game. So I heard a rumor that we're going to see maybe MiG-15s and F-86s in that.
Yeah. When the Korea supplement comes out, there's a possibility of doing a one-off thing. I don't know if we call it MiG Alley, we'll call it something, but it'll be because they showed a picture of a MiG of a F-86 flying around recently on one of the releases, the sneak peek kind of things, and an F-86 flying. So F-86s and MiG-15s that'll coincide with the Korea release. Which then of course we'll probably do some. Me and you were talking about earlier, and we've talked to some other folks. We might do some stuff for Cruel Seas too, because there's a lot of small boat actions up near the Korean Peninsula. So a lot of that night fighting stuff and dropping off commandos and and catching guys, and so we'll do a little of that. So they use Russian ships, so we'll do some for that. So yeah. Well, of course, then if you're gonna do jets and stuff, we'll try to come back to World War II and do 262s, of course, and we'll get Hartman in there finally with the 109 East Front kind of stuff, and then.
I had a lithograph that guy signed, and I gave it away as a gift.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I figured it had more meaning
to them than you. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
it's
one of those things. But that's exciting stuff. So it's good to see that these two lines that you guys are going to continuously support. Which,
and
everybody asks, is this a one-off thing?
Oh no, and then Andy's back in the studio, and Andy's been playtesting and working on some ground attack stuff. So we might see that here in the near future as well, with escorting bombers in to bomb airfields or factories or trains, rail yards, or tank columns or freighters or stuff like that. So he's been working on something like that. That's been really exciting stuff. So we might see something like that here soon.
So. When I got my starter boxes, or my Japanese and American, it came with a Val, and it came with the Americans came with the Corsair, and I noticed those are different scale than Blood Red Skies.
300. Yep, they're 300. And go ahead.
No, was there any talk about making both games the same scale?
No. Jon always wanted to do Cruel Season 300 because you can see the guys on the deck. Now, he said that, and the people are bitching about, well, my E-boat and my Vostok don't have men on the deck. Yeah, okay, they're plastic, okay? The metal stuff, they just put out the pictures of the metal cruise, so you can buy a metal cruise now for your boat, so you can put those Japanese or Americans or Germans or British on your ship now. They're different poses and stuff. And, of course, people started bitching right away about, well, I'd like to see Italians and Russians. Well, they're coming out this month. And, I'd like to get more weapons. Well, one at a time, guys. One at a time. We're trying to take care of things. We got our release schedule. We're doing what we can.
I took the metal guys, and I put them on my E-boat.
Yeah.
And I didn't really put it on the British boats. It's just, I'm not looking for that kind of detail, but I understand a lot of guys are. So, So some of the questions. So I think we covered Blood Red Skies, Cruel Seas. Yeah. I'm going to ask you one thing before we get into Korea, and I'm sure you have some other spoilers. Troy, our editor, our very good editor, it's like, this is what he wrote. I'm actually salivating for the warlords of Iran, or whatever it is. I'll be the only two playing in L.A. I'm going to be painting orcs and skellies.
That's Rick Priestley's fantasy game. It started out being called Fantaris. It's a derivative off of Gates of Antares. It's a D10 system. He was showing people how to play it last year, in 2017, at the open house in England. There's been pictures of it, gnolls and skeletons and orcs and humans, dwarfs and elves. And then it was called, I think, Pillars of Hercules. Now it's called Warlords of Erewhon. Erewhon. Now, inside joke. Look at the word Erewhon.
Yeah, it's what's it spelled backwards?
Nowhere.
Yeah, okay. That's
Warlords of Nowhere.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at the page now, and the rule book does look like the Gates of Antares book.
Yep. It's a fantastic system. It's a great game. We've had a lot of fun playing it and playtesting it. It comes out this month, end of the month, with skeletons. There'll be plastic skeleton warriors. There'll be a starter army, and then there'll be orcs and plastic orcs and orcs starter army. And then there'll be humans and dwarfs and elves eventually, sooner or later. But it's a fantasy. We've never done fantasy. We've always done historical stuff. We're putting our toe in the pond just to see how it goes. But there's been a lot of buzz. A lot of people have been pre-ordering it, and it's going to be another good seller.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, a lot of people were asking about it, and I was going to ask because that is a bit of a departure for you.
Yeah.
For you guys.
Yeah, totally out of left field.
So I'm kind of glad that's coming out. So let's go to what everybody's been asking me about. Is do we have a release date for Korea yet?
August
Is
the tentative. Yeah, it was going to be June. But then we decided that there's a 7th anniversary of some beach party in France or something that month. So
I heard
we're
about
sliding we're sliding it over to August, and we're actually putting the last. Steve and I are meeting actually on Monday, this coming Monday, the 7th. Actually, I know this is a pre taped thing, but the 7th of January, we're going to put our last bits into the box, and it's, halas, it's finished, and off it goes to Paul and Alessio, and they'll do the editing and then post editing, and then off to Osprey. So it's every time we did something. I mean, you talked and Steve talked in Nova this year, and we haven't gotten any more rabbit holes. John Stollard found this report of the Centurion saw battle for the first time in Korea. There was a new battle tank for the British. And can you believe or can you guess what the first, this is like the World War I first battle, the first tank battle between Germans and British was, and tank 1 of the first corps, armored corps, fired and hit this. And apparently the rumor is that Rick Priestley's grandmother worked on that project or something too. But anyway, side note of history. The first Centurion kill happened in Korea against a hazard a guess.
Well, it's going to be you pop this up too much for it to be something obvious like a T-34-85. I'm going to go with T-55.
I'm going to go with Cromwell.
Really?
So seven Cromwells from the Irish 8th Fusiliers was captured in a battle by the North Korean Chinese troops, and they were repurposed. And the Centurions were on patrol, and they saw this tank hiding under a bridge over the Han River at 3,000 yards.
They took it out,
and they weren't sure what it was, but it was in front of them, and they knew it was enemy. So they popped it, and then the tank next to them shot around and popped it. It was the longest recorded tank kill at that time, 3,000 yards. Then they got up there, found out it was a Cromwell. And to really put the icing on this little cupcake, that Cromwell was of the 8th Fusiliers, Irish, and the Centurion was also a part of the 8th Fusiliers, Irish. So a tank of the same unit shot its own tank and destroyed it for the first tank kill of Centurions in history.
Well, I mean, it's a repurposed tank. I mean, it's,
exactly.
It's
we're going to want to add there is some kind of information box, but there's so much stuff that we've packed into this supplement. There's 5 army lists, 17 scenarios, all different kinds of. So Steve's been really burning the night oil for all the other.
And I know we talked about this with Steve. What are the 5 countries that we're going to have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Chinese,
of course,
Americans, British Commonwealth, North Koreans, and South Koreans.
And you guys are going to have starter boxes for all of them.
There'll be Army. The U.S. Army and British are already done. They're there. The Chinese miniatures are just about finished, I think, in the sculpting and getting spun up, and then they'll do the Koreans and the South Koreans. Then for units like the Filipinos and the fighting Luxembourgers and the Colombians and the Filipinos
and the Turks,
Greeks, Ecuadorians, all those are mostly going to be just head swaps because once they got in the country, they got U.S. or British kit.
I'm going to do Turks, man.
Oh, they were nasty. But the other country that was really crazy was Ecuadorians. When they went to the prisoner swap, there was no Ecuadorians because they all either were never captured or didn't let themselves get captured. There was no Ecuadorians in the prisoner swap at the end of the war.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So and that's coming out in August. So when is the pre-sale for that going to start?
I'd say probably June, July. Some people on Amazon are already starting to try to pre-order it. So, but it's but they had Paul in the studio at 2018 September open house had some of the draft copies on the table for people could look through.
All right. And we'll be begging you for a draft copy so we could write about it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So is it going to use the same? So that rule book, is it going to be a bolt action rule book where I need the bolt action version 2 rules, or is it going to be its own little thing?
You're going to need bolt action 2, but it's not. We've already had people ask, well, can I use a Korea list in the bolt action tournament? No, they're two different armies.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't cross. But it's based upon, it's like bolt action 2 plus. There's a lot of extra stuff in there that are a little different, veteran sergeants, different weapons, multiple weapons. It was just like D-Day on steroids with the American and the British Army, because they were throwing everything, taking tanks off of plinths and putting engines back in them and sending overseas, throwing different guns on them. A lot like when they hit D-Day and they ran into those bocages. Cullen, they figured out to put a plow on the front of it and be able to bust through hedgerows. These guys are trying everything and anything in the field, put extra armor on, there's a plethora of modeling for you to do with your models. And yes, we're going to come out with, the Patton and the Chaffee and all those other ones that the bigger boat tanks that never got in towards the end of World War II. So there'll be some of those in there. That was one of Steve's major headaches, was trying to figure out what actually was on a TO&E, a table of equipment for these armies, because they were just anything and everything in the field went. They'd cobble this, put that on that, try this weapon. Does this work? Cool. Let's try this one then. And, that doesn't work, but slap this on there. And, slap 4 or 5, what was that one? Orcreos or something like that? 4 or 5.
The Onkos. The Ontos.
Onkos, yeah. 5 or 6 recordless rifles on a goat kind of looking thing. It's like, what the hell is this? So
I read a great book about the Battle of Hue, where they use those things. So here's a question with this. So no major game company has really put out anything for Korea. It is when they call it the Forgotten War. It is also the Forgotten War Game War. Is there a little apprehension that even though there's a lot of buzz about it, is there a little bit of apprehension at Warlord that this will find a home with gamers?
I would lie if I said no, but it's not as big as you think. We think of ourselves as the historic 28mm historical gaming company. We try to do as much as we can. John and Paul sat down around a table and they said, hey, let's try this company. Let's do some Romans.
Yeah.
Because they never really did it in Games Workshop. So then they did Romans. That was cool. And they did Black Powder. And then that was really cool. And then they did, Pike and Shot. And oh my God, then we did World War II. Some of the stuff, for example, everybody told John that who would want a Napoleonic French band and why should we make them? And John's answer was, because it's the right thing to do, and I think it'll look pretty. Yeah. And we sold crap tons of them. People love that Napoleonic band. Is it useful on the battlefield? Maybe, but it looks really cool. And sometimes it's all about putting cool stuff on the table. And this is trying to fix a wrong, like you had said. For the past 60 years, there's never been a real 28mm bolt-action skirmish kind of level game that really fits the genre like this Korea book's going to do. If it sells well, great. If it doesn't sell, well, at least we tried and we put it out there, and some guy's going to like it. I know there's going to be naysayers. I know there's going to be button counters that say, oh, well, the Koreans' 5th Infantry should have this. Okay, buddy. Thanks. Write an article about it. Put it in War Games Illustrated. Show that we're wrong. And it's great that now you've got an itch you can scratch that was never there to scratch before, but now you can say something about it. So it's about bringing more light to this battle, and just how close Korea came to becoming almost a nuclear war. It was
it was crazy.
Chip-Yon-Ni was the tripwire. If Chip-Yon-Ni would have went the other way through some of the release documents, you know how this works.
Yep.
The jobs we used to have. Some of the data that was released in the early 1950s, the United States had a sum total, all nuclear weapons. It was like 48. Okay, 48 total, everything conceivable. 48 total nuclear weapons, and the government administration was worried about not only Korea but other things that was going on in the Rise of the Red Menace, that they stationed 23 or 24 nukes on Guam.
And they've been there ever
in
since.
Case, well, and just in case they needed them, they were there. So half of the complete United States nuclear arsenal was placed in the AOR, area of responsibility.
There you go.
In case they needed it. So, holy shit, this thing almost went nuke in 1952.
Well, MacArthur asked to use nukes.
Well, and then Truman said no, and then
Fired his ass.
Eisenhower came in and said, let's move those over there just in case. So,
yeah.
So I mean, I didn't realize that's why one of the scenarios is called "Nuke 'em to your glow." For one of the scenarios in that book is you get the biggest dice you have in the house, you put it on the table and put it on number one pip. And as you play this scenario, as a Chinese unit gets off the board, you advance that pip. And then after like turn 3 or 4, you start rolling that big ass dice. And if it's like 7 or 8, oh, here comes the nukes. So it's just one of those.
Game over.
Game over. I mean, it was so damn close that me and Steve were just gobsmacked. We did some research. We're like, holy shit, I didn't realize it was that close.
And I recommend for folks that really want to know the blood and sweat and tears that went into this is to go listen to the September podcast where I sit down with you two guys. And
2.5 hours.
I could say that is like you guys really left no stone unturned. And we talked about afterwards, after we turned off the podcast, about all the stuff that you guys couldn't put in the book because there's so much stuff there. And I think that, a lot of guys are going to say, it's not my thing. Well, it's not like the Great War where it has that stigma of trenches that, you really have the first modern armies as we know them today at the end of World War II. And by 1950, they were just getting better. And you see weapons that became more iconic, like the Centurion in 67, in the Golan. I think that it's, for bolt action players, I think, and this is what you're gearing it towards, it's something that they should try.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. Because you can't say there's another Korea War game out there.
No, and what was funny was when we started this, me and Steve were really digging. And some of the people at headquarters were like, okay, this is great, do it this way. And we put in our inputs, and they're like, well, what about the fluff? I said, well, we're constrained on a total of, there's always a set piece of how you do your supplements, and it's X amount of pages or X amount of words and stuff like that. Well, me and Steve rapidly ran up against that barrier, and they're like, well, we need to have more of this, so I guess we'll just remove that barrier. So this is going to be larger than normal supplement. A lot of stuff happened in those 3 years, and to this day, I mean, they're still fighting over, and maybe hopefully soon in our lifetime there'll be a peace there. But a lot of things are there, and what was funny is as me and Steve started turning in stuff to the editors and stuff, the editors started saying, well, I was reading the other day and I was doing some research about this. And we're like, yeah, how about this? And then we put a couple more supplements in. Well, I saw the other day, so the guys who really had no interest in Korea now are doing all these books and readings and coming up with these things. And it has a way of infecting your historical soul to make you want to dig for more information. And if that happens, that's a win. Because now you've educated yourself not only on a new game system, but on actual history, and you've brought it to life.
Well, I noticed something, too, though, about you guys, especially with Cruel Seas. And I'm going to your webpage, and I go to it all the time, but just to point out, you have Osprey making these books for the rules, but Osprey also makes E-boats against MTBs, Spitfires against. I mean, my thing is, I'd rather get a book that it's going to drive my interest to go buy other books to read about it.
Sure.
It's because, to be frank and honest, when I go through the rules, bolt action, or any other game, I don't go through the historical vignettes unless they're like those really about this one guy, and you guys do that. But it's, I've bought some of the books that you guys are also throwing out on the website. I mean, what was that? The Forgotten War about Halberstram, about Korea. I'm reading that now, and it's that's going to get me into the mood to play the game. I think the fluff, I think fluff's great. Look, I've written fluff in the past.
Yeah.
It adds some context, but, I'm a little different where I know a lot about the history.
Yeah, like you said, The Forgotten War by Blair was a huge book on just the U.S. side. And then there's a British one, Max Hastings did one. And then
Max Hastings.
There's just tons and tons. And what's crazy, too, Mitch, is at first, we're trying to figure out the figure for the book. And we've been going around, and there's so many iconic symbols. We talked about Sergeant Reckless a couple times.
We did.
In the 1950s, everybody in the United States knows who she was. And if you ask any Marine, they know exactly who she is. But me and you today, we would not have known. And there's even books out on her. I read a book the other day about her. And who would have known about her?
So who's the figure going to be with the release?
Well, it was going to be Reckless, but now it might be a Marine from Choson. And then we might do a iconic Allied pack and iconic Axis pack, Communist pack, and Reckless will be in that pack, with maybe Sergeant Speakman, Corporal Speakman, or some other units. And there's even talk of just like people screaming and yelling for submarines in Cruel Seas. People are, me and you talked about this on the last podcast too. People are screaming and yelling for that other iconic band of people from the Korean War that everybody in the United States knows so much about.
I rewatched that whole series, all 11 seasons recently.
Yep. And we may or may not come out with a line of hospital people that may or may not look like those people, but in a context of how we would put them into a scenario or something like that. It's not like Oddball's Heroes, but there'll be something like that because the United States doesn't know anything about this Korean War except through that TV series.
Right.
But it's more than that. So we do have a scenario called Valkyrie about airlifted casualties out of an area, and the helicopters come in and pull them out. We call it Valkyrie. So we are going to do something of a hospital-related venue. But because people would want it, but there's more to it and more to Korea.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to find a female 28 millimeter in a dress and make that my medic for my U.S. forces.
Sure, exactly.
Klinger is iconic.
Clanker.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't want Jamie Farr suing your ass.
Exactly. Yeah. So it maybe have bosoms. I don't know, but So yeah, there'll be something like that. But Korea's got a lot of potential, and that's just a stepping stone to the 20th century warfare that went on almost every continent except for Antarctica and I think Greenland had something going on in the 20th century.
So I know you recently were in England, right?
Yep, got back 2 weeks ago.
And
3 weeks ago now.
So we're talking about all the known knowns. You guys probably talked about stuff that I have not brought up.
Mm-hmm. Well, we finally released pictures of our March-April release of Fortress Budapest. People started asking about that. That's a bunch of Hungarian stuff's going to come out for that. And we haven't forgotten, that's bolt action. And we do everything from Egyptians now to Doctor Who. So now, Doctor Who stuff's going to be coming out. We'll have, unit guys coming out and some different Daleks and Cybermen and more stuff for that. We just released the 13th Doctor. She's out. We might do some for bolt action. No, I'm sorry, for Black Powder. French and Indian War. Maybe you're looking at.
Yep.
We talked about that party on the beach in June. We haven't talked about that.
Well,
talk about Korea.
We can talk about anything.
And then, I'm just looking at my screen, and I don't know if I can talk anything about that. However, let's see. There's Korea. We're going to try to do something we haven't done in the past. That every month's going to have some huge hit you in the face kind of thing. Warlords of Erewhon is coming out this month, and then February we're going to have some stuff for Hail Caesar that's going to just knock your socks off. And then we haven't forgotten Johnny Alpha some stuff for that's coming out, some Creelers and some Mutation Liberty Army, because that was a huge part of that whole series was the revolution of the mutants, and they'll be play testing that game system a lot, and I saw some guys doing it over there. So the big guy with the helmet might be coming out this year, so that's going to be cool. Let's see.
And for folks who don't know, we're talking about Strontium Dog.
Yes, Strontium Dog.
Which
yep.
I've bought, I've painted, I've yet to play, just because I've been so busy.
Oh yeah,
but
it's the holidays.
It's a great game. I mean, I was there for the demo when you were playing with I forgot his name from Canada, but it's you watch the game and you're like, this is fun. This is a fun game.
That's fun. Andy Chambers and Gav Thorpe knew what they were doing, and they had a true love of the series. And they're still making comic strips for that one, just like Judge Dredd. And
yeah, and everybody's asking me. So I was talking to somebody about that game, an FLGS owner, on Christmas Eve when I was up in Philly, and he's like, "Well, where's Judge Dredd?" That's things people would be interested in.
That's U.S. people would be interested in, yeah.
Yeah, is that going to be coming out or?
He always wears a helmet, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see the big helmet guy.
You said big helmet. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Judge Dredd never takes off his hat.
So one of the other questions I have here just popped up. What's planned for Test of Honor?
We released the 7 Ronin, and we might be coming back around with a new release of that. There's still a lot of stuff going on. There's still a lot of stuff being worked. And if you go online, you'll see there's a bunch of stuff coming out for another series of games in that genre. But the latest we've come out with is 7 Ronin, and we might see a redo of that. I don't know. We might have it's been out for 2 years, Test of Honor. So at this time, it's been 2 years, so it might be time to clean it up a little bit. Some of the work's starting to show. So there might be a rehash of that. I really can't say. But it's still a fun game. We still love it a lot. And but we just released in conjunction with Footsore / Warbanner, the 7 Ronin. And
because I know a lot of people were talking about Test of Honor, and then that you guys were not going to be doing it anymore, and it's not a game I play. So I'm asking out of sheer ignorance too.
As far as I know, we're going to support it as long as we can.
Yeah, it's a beautiful looking game. It's just,
I
only have so much time.
Well, and then
to play games.
Other people are asking, what about K-47? Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out for that too. I mean, we've got Japanese walkers and some British stuff coming out, and the Merlin coming out, and there's always Hatman Gross and Peregrine squads and Nakaleb, the German, not quite the Nakyagas, but they're Nakablen without the wings stuff, so there's a bunch of stuff coming out for that still, and heavy rail guns, and that's another company that we deal with, Clockwork Goblin, that they do a lot of the stuff with, and we try to push that game as much as we can. So that's another fringe game that we have on our list that people just love to play. And again, that's kind of cool that you can buy an U.S. Army infantry box set, use it for World War II, and then use it for K-47, and now you're going to be able to use it for Korea. So you're getting 3 bangs out of that $1 that you spent for buying that box set.
So you guys, and I recommend people to go to warlordgames.com. You guys cover...
And sign up for the newsletter.
Which
Put your email in here. It doesn't hurt nothing. Just, tell them John or Mitch sent you. And it just takes your email, and you'll get an email twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays. Richard Carlisle and Richard and his staff and Sarah and George and everybody in the shop there do a hell of a good job trying to keep a lid on the Pandora box of the stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, there's so much stuff. Like just going to, Army deals, and there's so much. Is there anything that you guys have done in the last few years or coming out with that you were like, let's see what happens here, and it really takes off?
Well, Project Z was like that. At 5 from start to finish of development stuff was like 5 5, 8 weeks, and they said, okay, I think we got something. They threw it out there, and it went bonkers.
Project
And
Z is
our zombie game.
I can't.
So we released,
I don't even see it here.
Yeah. It's if you look at other games, it's there way at the bottom. We got bikers and female gangers and male gangers and military guys, and Project Z's there. And then we did Blood Red Skies. That boom, people just love the crap out of that. Test of Honor, people love the crap out of that. And it's nice being able to pump out stuff that people really love. People have come up to me and said, damn Warlord, you're making it hard for me to not sell it at my FLGS. And other people are asking, so when are we going to go public on the stock exchange? Well, we've all been around for 10 years, so we're 11 years now. So we're still doing baby steps. We haven't gotten to the walk run stage yet, but we're working through it, and we're getting there. And the bottom line is we want to put out, like John always says, history doesn't stop. There's always something going on. We're always finding something neat. We've got guys doing all kinds of supplements for different things for us. There's a lot of stuff out there, and if there's something that really, really, really is your passion, the Western Plains Wars, Indian Wars, the Yugoslav insurrection / rebellion, just like the Greek rebellion during World War II.
Yeah.
The revolution, all that stuff. If that's your passion, write a couple articles about it. If we can put out a supplement, great. We'll put it in Warlord Games Illustrated, great. You just get that stuff out of your head onto the paper and get it out there for people to share. And who knows what'll happen. John talks about, you look at some of the interviews, he started talking about, he grew up in an area where they built some boats, and he grew up reading the Warlord comics, and they had some storylines in there about guys running around in these small little motorboats. And then he bought a book and started doing some reading, and then it became a passion. And for the last 3.5, 4 years, he's been eating, sleeping, and breathing this stuff. And then, look, now we got a game and sold out in 2 weeks. So you never know what's going to spark that interest or scratch that itch for people. And there's so much stuff coming out. It is just unbelievable that, we're a company that's been around for 11 years and maybe have 120 people, 130 people, and we're doing all this. It's like riding Casey Jones's train down the track and nobody knows where the brake is. And it is phenomenal and fun to ride that train.
Trouble ahead, man.
That's right.
Trouble behind. Yeah.
That's right.
And it's weird because I've seen things for Project Z, but like there's so much stuff on your website, and I'm like, man, I have no visibility on this game. I got to do more of my homework.
Yeah. Well, there's so much stuff out there, Mitch. And then if you get on all that newsletter, all the new stuff comes out, and then an article might pop up about Project Z, or it might pop up about the Zulu Wars, and the new Zulu box set that's coming out.
Whoa, wait, what?
I don't know what I'm talking about. So, hey.
Is it going to be part of Black Powder?
Of course. We had that released for a while. We had Rogue's Drift for a long time, and then we pulled it off the shelf to revamp it. So it might be coming out here this year. A new set for Rogue's Drift. That's John's big passion. Besides, that was his number one driving force. I mean, if you ever get a chance to see pictures of his pleasure stuff, he's got a Shanti shield in the corner. And it's he took a vacation there, and that's just one of his big loves of history is the Zulu Wars.
I'll tell you, that is, if it wasn't for my fear of painting all those impy shields, I would totally love. I mean, because who doesn't love that movie?
Oh yeah, Zulu's a classic.
Yeah, so I mean, it's it really just and I knew that it was covered underneath the Black Powder game, and I was always been making
for it too.
Yeah, and I always been meaning to pick up the supplement for it, and because it's interesting. It's just how much impy do you need to paint?
Oh yeah, and that's where we can even get tongue in cheek a little bit, because if you look on our website and you look underneath the Zulu Wars thing, there's an entry into the catalog on our war store. It says, "Zulu, sir, thousands of them." You can literally buy 1,000 Zulus on our web store. It's hilarious, but yeah, it says, and it's underneath, "Zulu, sir, 1,000 of them, thousands of them," and you can buy 1,000 Zulus on our website.
How much did that go for?
I have to go look it up.
$800.
Yeah, $800. But I mean, 1,000 miniatures.
It's
Mitch,
1,000.
scale.
Yeah, it's. I'm looking at it right now. You get
It's
500.
less than $1 a figure.
500 married, 500 unmarried Zulu warriors.
Yeah.
You know what they say about those games, man? Sometimes you win, sometimes Zulus.
Zulus. That's right. Exactly. So I mean, and that's what's great about some of this tongue-in-cheek stuff. That in a historical context, we have so much fun working with this stuff. You know, you can put that into your game system. You can put oddballs heroes, and people have fun with it. At the end of the day, I know there's bean counter button counters out there that just that's not the right Prussian blue. Well, they've been out in the field for a while, so it faded. At the end of the day, it's a freaking game.
It is.
Unwad your panties. Let's have some fun. Let's have some good times. Let's share a story together that we can talk about and give to our grandkids. And these miniatures we're painting and playing with are going to outlive both of us, Mitch. So we're going to pass them down to somebody.
Right.
So let's pass them down to the people who know and love them and know the story behind the miniatures that you painted.
Well, every game takes advantage of, especially in 28 millimeter, where a lot of the Napoleonic stuff has that pulp aspect of it, where you have these larger than life people or these fictitious characters. And we were just talking about that with Korea with a certain army hospital. But
right.
That's what kind of makes the games fun. It takes the staleness. There's guys that are just historical Nazis, and that is not for them. But like throwing out a character, like even Black Powder, you have these, supernumerary characters that do certain things. You need that in certain games. If it's not your thing,
sure.
you don't put it in there.
Yeah. Well, and if we truly played historical games like I think some of these people would want to play, why do we play them? Because if you and me sat down to do what we call Civil War, other people call a war between the states, and you played the North and I played the South, I would always lose, you would always win. How much fun is that? Let's give a chance. Maybe the South beats Gettysburg. Maybe we can try this. Maybe, that's what's fun about the games we do, trying to change history. If we kept on doing the same time, these are all fantastical games, fantasy games. Because the minute you sit down and you line up Pickett's charge on that plane and you start throwing dice, you've changed history.
Yeah.
So unless you let them all die and the Union win Gettysburg every time we play, I'm sure it's going to be a hoot every time we play that.
Right.
Let it go, guys. It's so much fun having just the interaction between, you can sit down on a video game and have a great immersion experience and stuff, and after 4 hours, you turn it off and you got nothing in your hands. Mm-hmm. After 4 hours of painting or playing, you've got a history you can pass down to your kids or your friends. You got miniatures you can pass down to your friends or your kids, and that stuff is going to outlive you forever.
Right. Yeah, and it's keeping the games fresh. It's always that dichotomy of war gamers where it has to be correct. It has to be realistic. And as you know, I do wargaming professionally. You don't want to, that's not the fun wargaming. It's fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, it beats doing other things, but it's, do you really want a sim? Do you really want a sim where we're talking about probabilities of kill and you're rolling dice, you're having fun. And the moment you move that first stand, you're changing history because you weren't there.
Yeah. Well, and you're out in the field and the attack charts that a Cromwell on a Centurion at 3,000 yards probably won't hit, but let's take that son of a bitch shot anyway.
Yeah.
And it was successful. A lot of times, you almost become a Spock type character. Well, sure, the odds are. Don't tell me the odds.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and let's just do it.
You don't get extra points for saving ammo.
That's right.
And that's one of the things I have to say, when I got into bolt action, and I haven't played it since I've seen you, because both stores around here that play, one is doing the Pacific campain, and the other one's doing Stalingrad, and I have Canadians from Northwest Europe, but when I look at that game, it is people don't like the fact that you could play an early war army against a late war. That's I think the beauty of the game. But that is one of the most, I would say, historically accurate games, the way the platoons are made, the squads are made.
Sure.
And, you throw in my decision-making in there, with the British. Do I want rifles? Do I want them with Stens? How many Bren guns do I want in there? And you could really tailor your own historical force. And I think it is such a dedicated historical game. And then from talking to you and Steve, knowing that that is so important, that, people should realize, like, hey, we're going to throw some fun stuff in there. We're going to throw some what if stuff. But in the end, this is an accurate, a British squad of 10 guys, where a German squad is a different number. And, it's weird. And here's something that's, I was thinking of starting Germans, but I realized the rules are different in how to play them. Because
they got tweaked a little bit.
Because they're a little different, because every army is very unique onto itself. And
right. Yeah, some machine gun is some machine gun, but how it's employed is a little different.
Yeah. And the British have the forward artillery observer. The Germans have the chaplain. I mean, there's these different things that every army has. And I wouldn't say it's, it's keeping me away from starting a German army. I think time is, if anything, is keeping me away from doing it. But, it's like those, you just did the Desert War.
Yep.
And that stuff was beautiful looking.
Yep. And then now the Budapest and the Hungarians are going to come out. We try to do our best running these rules and getting them through the system. And, we send them off to get printed, or we send them off to get edited and proofread. And some shit slips through. We're sorry, and we'll try to fix as best we can.
You're only human.
But that happens. Yeah, it happens everywhere. And bless you if you find out that, oh, that was the wrong weapon. Well, great. Show us the stuff, and maybe we'll write an article. It's one thing to say that's wrong. It's another thing to say that's wrong, and this is why, because, and give us the supporting elements. And who knows, maybe next time it comes around, your name's in the back of the book.
Yeah, and the other one, too, is, like, you guys make it very easy to pick up a different army, and just looking at some of the deals, and I usually will check them out when I go into a store. I want to do a German army. It's more a question of what time period are they SS, are they Afro? But you have these box deals that come out.
Sets, army, $100 for like 50, 60 guys. It's still, and you're going to get like the Waffen army box is the epitome of holy shit. Look at all the stuff I'm getting in the box. You're going to get like 40 or 50 guys and 2 armored vehicles and a half track. You get a Stug and a Panzer IV. You only get 1 tank in everybody else's army, but not in the Waffen SS army box. So, I mean, and still it's like $145 for an army. $145 and you're done. Your army's finished.
Yeah.
It's not like buying 1 model for some other companies and you get 1 model for $110.
Yeah.
You get a whole army for $145.
Yeah, and to me, I don't get it. It's the more I cover aspects of this hobby, the least I understand wargamers.
Yeah, wargamers. Yeah, exactly.
And it's really, I know. Look, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this right now. But we
would have wargamers.
Yeah.
Bless their heart. You gotta love them. And sometimes they're just like, really, you want to talk about the gold buttons on this outfit because they were brass instead of gold, and I painted them gold. I'm sorry I grabbed the wrong bottle.
You're not allowed to do that. You know that. That's bad. Exactly. That's bad stuff, man. I don't know.
Exactly.
How dare you, sir?
That's
How
right.
dare you?
That's right. The best story I ever heard is my buddy Steve was talking. He was over in England, and he had some unit of Prussians or something, and a guy came over and started berating him about it's not the right color. And he looked at him and he goes, mate, these guys, that blue you're talking about was parade ground. These guys have been in the field for 6 months. That shit's faded, so they're right painted. So it's just like, there you go.
Oh, the Waffen SS starter army has a Stug, and a Tiger.
There you go, and a Tiger, and then the infantry. It's like 145. You're getting 2 tanks for 145.
Yeah, you're getting a you're getting a Pack 40, a mortar,
and a tank gun. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to complain. Yeah, just because it's it's not even the price. It's just the fact that it's a lot to paint.
Yeah, exactly. Well, John always says if you can't paint your armor in an hour, you're doing something wrong. So I mean, airbrushes are great. Talk to Ken over at Badger. He's good stuff.
Yeah, there's some fun armies I want to collect too when it comes to black powder. So I mean black powder and bolt action. But that was
Hail Caesar's got some
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing I think with doing bolt action. So I got 2,000 points. I picked up an extra tank or two. And I don't feel the need, even if you were to come, when you came out with the new Market Garden book, I didn't really need to get anything new.
Nope, it's all there.
I have enough. I could create my force and kind of how I want it, and I think it's an amazing game. I just wish that they would play a Northwest European campaign around here so I can get into it.
There you go. Well, you'd be surprised. We'll get some people in your area.
Yeah, well, that's it too. So what else? What else is going to excite the hell out of everybody listening?
Oh,
I know you get in trouble every time you talk to me, but
well, we're expanding. Last year was the first year on the books that I did what I do, and from January to December, we hit 30 plus events, and I traveled 43,102 miles. We're hoping to do more this year. So if there's an event that's near you, let me know. Give me send me an email at, jon.russell@warlordgames.com. We'll try to get it in our event schedule. We'll try to see what we can do. You're going to see a tournament circuit coming out probably end of the month that we're going to nationalize the tournament circuit. And depending upon the size of your game. Now, you know well as I do, if you look at a triangle and you have an open net, the open net's inverted.
Yeah.
In the United States, somewhere every weekend, there's something going on in some game store of bolt action somewhere.
Right.
And there's just no way that Pandora box has been opened. There's no way that we can keep track of it all, nor should we. But as that triangle gets down to the narrowest bottom, now we're starting to get into 10 or more people, 24 people, 40 people, 50 people. Now you want to start getting into maybe a ranking system. Maybe you want to start getting into a circuit, regions, maybe play for the national title in the U.S. So
for which
you're
game?
going to see a lot for bolt action, and then we'll use it for other ones.
I'm going to throw our hat in the ring, too. We have been, if you're looking for a place to host rankings, you unless you have something cooking, I'd like to throw our hat in the ring for that one. And I want to bring up an interesting question with that. So with other games, and this is a lot on Facebook and a lot of me talking to gamers, that they feel some of the games lose some of the appeal when you go to a tournament. Guys are playing to go to a national level tournament that they have to qualify for, and it ruins the fun aspect of the game. Have you guys thought about that one at all? Like, what keeps
there are some tournaments that have and I've heard it, and it's kind of interesting. I've never heard of this idea before, but some of these events and locations are now doing tournaments at a competitive list or a player list. So a competitive list is like the old Games Workshop where you max out your army list, you buy everything you can. You buy a Soviet army with 1,250 point army with 40 action dice, 40 order dice in the bank. Yeah, they're all inexperienced. Yeah, but it's 40 dice. Sometimes there's dice limits, sometimes there's not. Or you get a Russian army list with 7 flamethrowers. Or, it can be done. You can break I get it. And people have been complaining about that. But you can do a competitive army list, or you can do a playlist of people who want to play the game for the fun of the game. So there are those two thought processes sometimes butting heads. But I do have to say, in the 3-4 years that I've been involved with bolt action, and the 10 or 15 years I was involved in the Games Workshop in the Warhammer 40K field, the instance of player ejections or just rat bastards playing and pushing lists and being dicks, or some people say twat waffles, or ass, or ass hats, is about 1 to 10. I've seen one bolt action guy, and I've only heard of maybe on my 2 hands player ejections nationwide from tournaments, compared to every tournament for Games Workshop's 40K stuff. Guys getting kicked out of being dicks.
I have to say, based on my one experience going to a large tournament for you guys, everybody was awesome.
Yeah, everybody has a great time playing these, and they make great armies. They make great army lists. So, knocking on wood, we don't have that problem.
Because
But there,
I've seen like, and it's with. I'm not going to mention other games, but when we were at Nova Open, I
yeah,
walked through some of those other events
yeah,
going on, and there were guys like that where you thought was going to break out in a fight.
you could feel the tension,
Right.
and a lot of times in the bolt action games, people are having, oh what, hey, oh don't forget that, oh and don't forget this, oh man that was a great roll, I can't believe you rolled, and we haven't had a competitiveness as much. There is, it's there. I'm not going to say it's not. It's there.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some folks, and some guys came up to me. I pulled a couple guys aside and I said, hey, look, do you realize what you're doing here? Do you realize by your attitudes and actions what people are starting to say and do around you? And they're like, oh my God, I never thought about this. One guy came up to me just this year and said, hey, John, you talked to me about this a year ago, and I took it to heart, and I've truly changed my way of playing, and now I really understand what you were talking about. I'm having so much more fun.
Yeah.
So it's not about killing my enemies and hearing the lamentation of the women. No, it's about having fun and sharing stories and building a bond with the gamers. So
Well, and I think
we're going to
you
come
have a
up.
lot to do with that.
Oh well, thank you. I
And,
appreciate that.
and not to blow smoke up your ass, because if it was bad, I'd tell you just the same.
Right,
But
and you have, and I appreciate
and
that.
I have. If I can only be honest, then that hey, I can't ask for much more. But
Yeah.
people have spoken, and they start talking about the Raiders, and
hmm
the Warlord Games of how they are when you meet them at the events they hold, and it all seems to come back to the excitement you and your guys have put into your games. That
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
your excitement for this hobby is something that we desperately need, because we want to grow it. And I see
Mhm.
all these games growing and the excitement, and you guys are coming out with stuff hand over fist. Like every one of those newsletters I get, I feel my bank account going down. But I would
Oh
say
yeah.
that I don't know how you guys are doing it in Europe. I can only tell you what I see here in the United States. But the excitement you guys put into it, from talking to Ed about Gates of Antares,
Oh man,
even
yeah.
though it's a game that it doesn't scratch any itch that I have as a gamer, the fact that his excitement about it and the way he explains it to me, it's
It's infectious.
it really is. It also will
hmm
make me go poor, and I think that is what companies need.
Yep.
Not
Oh
to
yeah.
not to give out your secret, but it's you don't have to, it's not rocket science what you guys are doing, putting excitement into your games. I'd be honest with you, I No Dice No Glory would love to start hosting bolt action
hmm
tournaments, because we all love the
Sure.
game.
Yeah. Well, and there's talk of dividing up the United States into 5 or 6, maybe 7 regions, and each region will have its structured uh, different levels of competitiveness to end up at the regional level competition in the finals. That'll go to the national final that right now we host at Adepticon every year, and then in the future, if it so happens, the world title happens, of course, at HQ in Nottingham in November. There's a world team tournament that's actually spinning up in Poland that happens in May this year. It's a world team tournament. There's 16 teams from around the world that are, and there's even, this is what blows my mind. The South African team that's going there is sponsored by the South African Olympic Committee, because they figured out that it's a mind kind of exercise dealy thing, mabobber. And they wrote a great request and proposal, and the South African team is supported by the South African Olympic Committee. So
Yeah, well,
we need to write some papers.
yeah, we couldn't do that in this country, because we'd have like a team
Yeah,
doctor that just abuses some of our
yeah,
players.
yeah,
We can't have that.
exactly,
It's too soon.
exactly. But
It's too soon.
yeah, too soon.
Too
But
soon.
yeah, so you're going to see in the next 30 days, I got to finish up the paperwork, and we've already been talking about it, and we've been working with some folks, and you're going to see a ranked structure. We're more likely than not going to use Best Coast pairing, and then you can always check your rankings for those competitive natured people. They can always see where they're at. What we don't want to do is because of that Pandora's box of something happening every weekend, we don't want to give rankings to if you, me, and Paul or Bob got together in our garage and did a round robin tournament and I won, I get 10 points in the national ranking system. No, it's got to be a sanctioned or regulated tournament or convention that will have merit and will have a structure, and you will get points for winning that tournament or placing that tournament into the national and international listings and rankings, because some guys just love that. So we're going to do it. People have been asking for it, so we're going to do it. So you're going to see something like that here real soon for bolt action. And of course, if it works well, Blood Red Skies, Cruel Seas, Gates of Antares,
Black Powder,
K-47, Black Powder, and it's just the beginning. So now we've been out there for 8-10 years. Now it's time to put some structure to the tournaments. These games are never really designed or written with the mind of tournaments, but Americans, and there's people out there that love to do competitiveness and want points and let's go bash things, and we're going to do that. So you're going to see a tournament structure for bolt action the next 30 days or less that'll be released to the public. And then if you want to run a tournament that's regulated, all that stuff that I talked about, the Pandora's, the big stuff going on every weekend, that's unregulated play. And we love unregulated play because crazy stuff happens out there and it's phenomenal. But regulated play, ranked play, has to have some stipulations, some guidelines. The basic is 3 rounds, 14 players, 10 players, 1250 or 1,000 points. It depends upon the location area, but there's going to be some guidelines. 3 rounds, 2.5 hours, 1,250 points or 1,000 points.
So I am going to get our folks, which are spread over North America and Europe, because a lot of our writers love the game. That we would love to host some of your tournaments once the rules come out.
Sure, we love it, and I like going to new places. Some of the funnest stuff, Mitch, I did this year was going to some tournaments that or places I never knew existed, and you go there and these guys are just loving the game. We walked in to Michigan GT this year. Some guys said I should go, so we went, and there was 12 or 14 bolt action players. Every board of terrain was beautiful. Every army was painted. We took 45 minutes, the judges, 45 minutes to determine who the best painted army was. 12 armies, 45 minutes, because we couldn't figure out, because they were so well painted. And 3 of those 12 armies had cavalry units. There was an Italian, there was some Polish, there was some French, cavalry units. And it was just phenomenal. Who knew, So I love going to these places. I'll be at Siege of Augusta in 2-3 weeks down in Augusta, Georgia. And I'm really looking forward to Kalisa. She puts on a hell of a show. Kalisa puts on a hell of her tables are immaculate. She runs phenomenal game stuff and game tournaments, and she's great. A force to be reckoned with. I'm really looking forward to working with her some more. But that's what's fun about going around this great nation of ours and finding new hidden talent, new hidden breeding grounds of gamers, and it's just great. And I love supporting it, and I enjoy the hell out of it. I'm glad I can do what I can do.
Well, and I'll tell you, as a gamer, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because we want to grow the hobby. We want to get the excitement in the hobby, and it just kind of blew me away, like your setup at Nova, where I was there for the Bolt Action tournament, but you're demoing Blood Red Skies, you're demoing, Strontium Dog. I probably am saying that wrong.
Yeah.
And you're demoing these.
You're right.
And to me, this is kind of what we need, because, it's not really hard to figure out the addiction of gamers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not really, I wouldn't call it overt manipulation, but it's very subtle. And, and to me, it's how many of your games do I now own?
A lot of them.
A lot. A lot.
Over half. Now.
5.
Over half of what this is.
5. Black Powder.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I have 300 Black Powder figures. I've, be honest with you, never played it. Have the rules.
But it's there.
Dying to play it. Want to play it.
You got Black Powder. You got Gates of Antares. You got Strontium Dog. You got
Blood Red Skies. Cruel Seas.
Skies. Cruel Seas. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that is why people were excited for Cruel Seas. It was new. It was different. And, I kind of wonder how much the success of Blood Red Skies being a easy to learn, hard to master, quick to pick up game went into folks buying and turning around and buying Cruel Seas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's I call it Cruel Seas in the water. A Cruel Seas is both Blood Red Skies in the water. It's just about the same dynamic. Uh, you don't know when you're going to move because it's the bolt action dice in the bag kind of thing. It's moving ships around and trying to figure out how to turn and make sure all your guns can bear on your enemy. And it's a lot of fun. And it's not like that you go I go system where okay, your turn, I'll come back in 45 minutes after I go get lunch or something. I can see that you're going to table me in 2 turns. It's like, okay, great. No, you don't know when you're going to move, so you stick around for that nail biter. And the minute an eel or a fish goes in the water, those torpedoes go in. Oh, the tension goes up in that room. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, I'll tell you though. So it's like I saw players and they were like, "Okay, I'm going to launch a whole bunch of torpedoes heading this way," and it was really pretty amazing. Like these guys were having fun, and I had to remind them. I go, "Yeah, this is fun. Say what you want. That this is missing from the game or that. It's fun." And guys were having fun, and
that's what it is.
And we have to thank you guys for doing that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Mitch.
Well, I'm this is one of our shorter conversations.
Yes, it is.
Coming out here in an hour and a half. So we're gonna throw some commercials in there. So
that sounds good, buddy.
What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna talk to you soon, and I will turn it back to Sean.
Hey, Sean, take it away.
And of course, folks, I'm gonna ask him a bunch of stuff offline to see if he could tell me.
Sure, and then and we can go out with that great World War II song "Tangerine." That's a good one.
So we could do that.
There we go. Cool.
All right. Well, hey, once again, Jon Russell from Warlord.
Thanks, man.
You could find him
JON.RUSSELL at warlordgames.com. Jon Russell at warlordgames.com.
And then, of course, hit No Dice, No Glory, and we're going to be covering as much as we can. So I will turn it back to Sean.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory. And keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.